Thanks for coming out and sharing part of your day here at the Rhode Island Author Expo. My name's Steve Porter. I'm the president of the association. I'm also the founder and proprietor, along with my wife Dawn, of Stillwater Books in Pawtucket, and also Stillwater River Publications, which is a hybrid publishing, self-publishing company that we operate out of the bookstore downtown. So again, thanks for coming. And if you're here, I assume it means you're interested in some kind of successful self-publishing venture of your own. So allow me to shed a little bit of light on it. Now, I only have about 35, 40 minutes or so to talk about this. And I can tell you that what I did is try to whittle down a 7-week course that I used to teach down at URI on self-publishing. So you're getting 7 weeks worth of stuff in 40 minutes. So in order for me to whittle it down that way, what I did is I kind of broke it down into a dozen secrets. So we kind of call the presentation The Secrets of Successful Self-Publishing. So these what might be the 12 most important things I might want you to take away. There's no way I don't think I could possibly hope to teach people how to format a cover and an interior and upload and marketing and all these pieces, because it's just such a big project. But if I can, again, have you walk away from this presentation with these kind of 12, at least what I believe to be truths, I think that you all will be on the proper road to doing it the right way. First, just a very, very quick biography of where I came from. Make it very short. I started in college, writing for my literary magazine where I was the editor, which is where I met my wife Dawn, who is the editor of the yearbook. So we became each other's staffs and published both the yearbook and the literary magazine for a couple of years there. Then I graduated in English, and I did what every English major does when they graduate from college, which they went into retail. But at least I was smart enough to go into bookselling. And I spent my career between Walden Books, and if you're old enough to remember the Laureates bookstores, which used to be in Emerald Square in Taunton and Rhode Island Mall. At that point in my career, I was doing the marketing for 176 stores, which went from Maine to Maryland. So I really got to know the inside of the traditional publishing industry from the bookstores, book-selling perspective. Then 20 years went by as that company went out of business in right around 2000. And I always wanted to go back to my roots of writing the great American novel. That's really what I thought I was doing when I was editing that literary magazine all those years ago. So I finally got tired of rejection letters. I got tired of sending out things to publishers just to be frustrated. And with the advent of 21st century technology, you can now email your manuscript and have a rejection letter back in seconds. You no longer have to wait those 2 or 3 weeks to feel good that they really might take it, accept it this time before you get the rejection. That doesn't exist. You get the rejection right away. A lot of people say I'm negative about the publishing industry. I'm not. I'm just realistic about it. And I love this business and I love this industry, but they often will sell you kind of a false narrative that all you have to do is write something great. And then it's all taken, the rest is all taken care of for you. Your future is assured. But I made the decision after those rejections to go to self-publish. And I did self-published a novel, self-published a second, had some modest success. Started selling pretty well, sold a lot of ebooks. And at that point I was looking for someone to market with. And I realized here in Rhode Island there was no organization that really talked and supported and promoted the work of our authors. And that's where this association was born. It started with 6 of us. Today we have 335 authors in the group. Only 135 of them are here today. And the mix that's out there, both traditional and self-published. So it's not just this, our association isn't just for indie authors. And that led us into meeting authors from all over the state. And at one of our meetings, an author came in and she was so excited. She had just self-published her first book. And she had a big box full of hardcovers and paperbacks. And she stacked them up on the table in front of us all, and it looked great. And she was just, if you've ever had a child, having a first book is better. When you open that box the first time, it comes, it's yours, and you did it, and there it is. It's awesome, awesome feeling. And she was so excited. She said, I just have one question. She said, I spent $7,000 on this package. Did I get ripped off? And I think it was at that point my wife and I kind of had that aha moment where we realized that there are a lot of companies out there online and in the world who are making a lot of money in self-publishing that are not putting the author's concerns first. They're putting the concerns of their publishing company first. And that's when we started Stillwater River Publications, was to kind of give independent authors choices and at least the lowdown on what's really happening out there. And that's what's evolved into our publishing company. We've done 160 books in the last 4 years. And this March we opened a bookstore. So as a side note, if you haven't bought all your Christmas presents yet, come on down to our bookstore on Main Street, Kentucky. We have everything in stock. But today we're going to talk about the secrets that really make you successful, making sure that what you bring to press, if you're going to decide that you're going to self-publish, that you get the best out of it. So hopefully the slides are legible. The first secret I want to make sure that everybody understands is that your success will be directly related to your expectations. I can tell you two stories of two different authors that Dawn and I have published, indie authors. One is named, we've got both these books out on our table, out on the floor too, if you want to look at it. First one is Rosemary Colt. Rosemary is part of the Colt empire. If you're from Rhode Island, you know Colt State Park, and you'll know that name for a variety of reasons. And she was writing basically her family history of her son, her husband, their life, the family. And she worked for a year on this memoir with us. And it came down to the last step. And we said, well, what do you want to charge for this book? And she said, well, I don't think I want to sell it. I'm just going to give copies away. So her expectations for the success of that book were very easy to meet. Just having it published. It's that feeling inside that I don't care, I want this published, I want it out there, that's all I want. And like many indie authors who think that, about 3 months later she came back to us and said, how much do you think I can get for this? And so it is now for sale and available online and in bookstores and all that. So Rosemary is one example. Now the other example on the other side of the spectrum is Veronica Arian, who wrote a book called Mother at 7 about growing up in an Armenian family in Russia where she was abused and beaten, and horrible things happened to her, and at the age of 7 years old was put in charge of raising her baby brother. And it chronicles incredible tales of her rummaging through dumpsters to feed him, and getting water out of puddles, and just trying to survive on the streets at 7 years old with a baby. When she brought the manuscript to us, she said, I want to self-publish this, but I need your help, and this is a book that could help millions. And we said, that's great, let's start with dozens. Because I don't know how to reach millions, I know how to reach dozens, and we can work our way up. And Veronica said, no, I want to reach millions. And she even wrote into her into her acknowledgement page in the book, when she thanked all the people that helped her. She said, I also want to thank Ellen DeGeneres for being such an inspiration, and for the fact that you're going to invite me on your show in about 2 years. You don't know this yet, but I do. Now, that never happened. However, Veronica's persistence and her advocacy for her own work, to date, she's sold about 7,000 copies of that book. And that's while that's not millions. In the self-publishing world, that's pretty darn good. And she's disappointed because she's going to double that. And knowing her drive and her background and what she believes and what she's had to go through in her life, she will double that. And we still sell, to this day, it's been out now 3 years, we still sell 10 to 15 copies, either in book or ebook form every day, somewhere in the world. So if you're Veronica or you're Rosemary, your expectations for your book are important. Have your expectations clear in your mind. What will make you happy and successful? What will make, is it just getting it out there enough? Is it getting some readership enough? Or is it, hey, being #1 on the New York Times bestseller list? Is that what you're looking for? And none of those are the wrong answer. It's just that the path you take and the path you choose to take are going to be very different. Secret number 2, you can do it yourself. Except when you can't. And I want to mean here is there are really 2 important points to this. First of all, when I mentioned earlier the person who came and spent $7,000 on a publishing package that they bought online, what it costs to self-publish is literally nothing. If you know how to do a cover design, work with InDesign a little bit, or maybe Photoshop, if you know how to manipulate Microsoft Word or the equivalent to create your interior, and you know basic to maybe just a little bit above basic internet knowledge about uploading files and downloading files and modifying them a little bit, you can self-publish a book at almost no cost. It does not cost anything to do it. Obviously the books themselves, the printing doesn't have cost to it. And if you believe that you cannot do that yourself, you can talk to 100 people out here who have done it themselves. So yes, you can do it yourself. It is possible. The technology has come down to a level where if you're comfortable with it, you can produce your own book. Now the problem with that is that there are certain things this publishing industry really needs. One is good cover design, for example. You walk around this room and you'll even see a lot of covers that are really maybe not so professionally done. You want to consider that that's the first thing a book buyer sees, is what your cover looks like. So your decision to maybe invest a little money in a good cover design is critical to success in self-publishing. Again, if you don't have that artistic ability. And the second is editing. All you have to do to lose a good reader is have them 3 or 4 paragraphs into your life's work and start hitting typos. It does nothing for you. It certainly doesn't do anything for your fellow self-published authors who have the stigma that everything in them is lousy and they're all full of mistakes. The truth is, if you're going to invest in anything, invest in good cover design and good editing. So if you don't have those skills, those are certainly skills to invest in. Secret number 3. A writer and an author are not the same thing. The problem with most writers, and this goes true for both traditionally published and self-published authors, is that you start writing your book. And in my case, for my first novel, it took me 20 years. So even if maybe you don't procrastinate quite as much as I did for the first one, you're going to probably lock yourself in a room somewhere at some point, close out the outside world, write for hours and hours on end, sometimes dragging it out over weeks, months, and years. And at some point you finish and emerge as an expert in whatever document you have in your hand. However, now you have to go learn the publishing industry. And the publishing industry has been around for 250 years. And it knows what it wants, it knows what it likes, and it has a tendency to shoot these false narratives at you, such as, just write the great stuff and we'll take care of it. Well, of course they want you to write great stuff, but they're not going to take care of it. They're just going to take care of what they want to take care of. As a writer, you can write anything you want. If you get great pleasure from writing, and I certainly do, I can write anything I want, whenever I want. I post it to blogs, I might submit some things to short story competitions, whatever I happen to be writing about. But when you turn the page and decide to be an author, you have expectations. If you're writing romance, your book needs to look like a romance. There's nothing that's going to anger a reader anymore than pick up something that they think is a romance that turns out to be a mystery. Or to pick up something that looks like science fiction that turns out to be a thriller. Readers have expectations for good to stay in your genre, or that tired expression of stay in your lane. And while, as writers, we want to be creative and be out of the box and do all these creative things, that's wonderful. But if you want to be a successfully published author, You have to meet your readers' expectations. If you don't meet their expectations in both quality and genre, you're going to struggle to sell books. You're going to struggle to find readers. And you're going to struggle for that book. You know, like Veronica's that took off is going to be hard to do because people aren't quite sure what they bought and they're not quite sure what to do with it. Secret number 4, there is no one right way to publish a book. I can tell you success stories from people who have been obviously traditionally published and are on the sellers list, self-published authors that have won. There are hybrid options, which I'll talk about too today. Or you can go down, people have gone down to Staples with a manuscript and had it glued together and they sell them out of the trunk of their car and can be very successful doing that. So if anyone, particularly online or at any conference or any presentation says there's only one way to do it, there's a best way to do it, there's a good way to do it, I would question that because there are a lot of ways you can do it. And you have to try to determine what it is that motivates you. Every one of us is different. We have different motivations. We have different, some of us are, I would say some of us are, maybe let's say, very outward going, very like doing events. Obviously, the folks that are here like doing events because they're at an event. Others, I've talked to other authors who are very successful, say, why would I want to come to a book signing when I can market my socks off in my pajamas all day long on Twitter and Facebook and Instagram and Goodreads and elsewhere. So you kind of have to match your personality to the publishing. There are several ways to publish. You can publish traditionally. Lauren was talking about that earlier, finding an agent and that whole process. You can publish with small presses. There are a lot of small publishers who will take your book at no charge to you, but no royalties back to you either. If they accept it and want to publish it, it's a great way to get started, but you're putting your novel out there basically knowing you're not going to sell a lot and you're not going to make a lot of money at it. But it does get your foot in the traditional publishing door. There's self-publishing, which is you're going to do it all yourself. And then there's hybrid publishing, which is essentially what my wife and I do, where we take the indie authors and help them through, step by step. So there are a lot of ways to look at that. Secret number 5 is plan ahead. This is something that indie authors and self-published authors, this is the biggest mistake I think everyone makes. You have been working on this darn manuscript forever, you're sick of looking at it, you're focused on publishing it, it's going to get done. One way or another, it's going to get done. You knock yourself out, you do it. It's finished, it's complete. The box arrives at the door, it's full of books, you're excited, it's on Amazon, and you say, okay, now what? Well, if you didn't think about now what a year ago, you're doomed. In the traditional publishing world, if Random House accepts your manuscript today, it will be out for sale at Christmas time, December 2019, or summer 2020. And you say, how could I have to wait that long? Yes, because they're going to take that information, that book, and start marketing it, promoting it. They'll bring it to summer book shows like Book Expo in New York. They'll put it in catalogs. They'll set up radio, newspaper, magazine coverage, which happens, if you want an article, even Rhode Island Monthly, you have to do that about 4 months before. You have to give them that book 4 months before it comes out. How many self-published authors are that organized and plan ahead that far? So if you're thinking about self-publishing, I say put the brakes on and think about what and how you want to market that book after the fact and plan ahead for some of these things. Because you can't have the book come out and then say, oh my gosh, I don't know what to do. How do I get this into bookstores? How do I get this into libraries? How do I get into these author signings? This is stuff you want to work on way ahead of time. Again, to be most successful. Number 6, your investment of time is more important than your investment of money. I think that most self-published authors I meet, if they can do it themselves, they're going to save a lot of money. If they have to hire someone else, there are a lot of ways to, cut corners and keep it relatively inexpensive. But where they start to stumble isn't with the finances, it's with the time commitment. And again, using this event as an example, there are 135 people who gave up a Saturday in December to sit here all day to sell a handful of books and promote the socks off whatever it is they promote and market and talk about. So that's a big time commitment for people who have full-time jobs, full-time, because you think that, wow, I've been writing this, it's put so many hours into my writing and editing, and now it's done, and it looks great. You think you're going to save time. Well, now that's when it starts to get busy. Because a lot of the, if you're going to set up library events or do events, it takes time to do these things. So how much time you invest is entirely a personal choice. If you decide you just want to have the book out there and you're not going to put a lot of time in promoting and letting people know it exists, again, as a self-published author, that's perfectly fine. You kind of get that slow burn of sales over time. But with a lot of bookstores, or even magazines or newspapers, a book that's 3 or 4 or 5 months old is old. There are thousands of books coming out every day. Yours came out 3 months ago, 4 months ago, 6 months ago? Nah, we want new ones. So you're telling me I just worked 20 years on a book, and after 6 months it's old? So that's why you really want to make sure you plan ahead and use that time as you're pushing towards publication in a smart way. Secret number 7, don't expect bookstores and libraries to love you. Coming from the book selling industry, as someone who owns a bookstore, that was probably the biggest shock to me when I had my own self-published book and I walked into bookstores and said, hi, I'm from, just up the road here and I'd love you to carry my book. And they looked at it and they said, nah, we don't do much with local authors around here. No, thank you. Or you go into a book or a library and say, would you like to buy my book, and have one in your stacks? They say, no. You want to donate it? We'll take it to the committee and consider it. And it sounds so kind of cold, but you got to understand the reality of how bookstores make their money and how libraries, I don't say make their money, but how libraries succeed is with traffic and books being signed out. So if there's no demand at a library for a book, it's going to go in the 99-cent sale on the weekend with the friends group. And in a bookstore world, shelf space is money. So if you wrote this knockout real estate book, why do I want to carry your knockout real estate book from someone I've never heard of if I could have the Random House, Simon & Schuster, and HarperCollins real estate book instead? And I use the analogy that it's kind of like being a great woodworker, and you cut down a pine tree in your backyard, and you make these beautiful boards. And you load the boards into your truck, and you take them over to Home Depot. You say, could you move the Georgia Pacific stuff aside and sell mine? You're going to get thrown out of Home Depot in seconds. And this is essentially what you're asking your local bookstore to do. And very frequently, after loving bookstores the way we love bookstores, and then walking in and being rejected in such a way, it can be pretty shocking. And so you want to at least understand how bookstores make their money. And that if you want to do events at stores, how that works. And if you want to work with libraries, have something that the libraries can use, presentations or workshops or something for their writing groups, so that you become part of their fabric and part of their success. Number 8, network. Some people really hate this. And what I mean is there are, not just with ARIA, but there are organizations all over New England. And some of the writing groups and associations here in the Writers' Resource area in the back are the first place you should start. Organizations that work with authors, work with writers, work with publishers. Some organizations I can recommend include IBPA, which is the Independent Book Publishers Association, RIRW, the Rhode Island Romance Writers, NEBA, New England Bookseller Association, or excuse me, New England Independent Bookseller Association. IPNY, the Independent Publishers of New England. Because once you start to network with these folks, and you can learn a ton from successful self-published authors and a ton from small presses, and you'll start to learn and appreciate how they succeeded and what worked for them. Because again, you all kind of have to find your own path. There's no one right way. So coming to an event like this is excellent, so you're on the right track. But learning how to find these other groups and talk to these other groups and finding these other authors and writers and those folks that succeeded are exactly what you need to do. Number 9, let social media be your friend. We talk to a lot of writers, particularly older writers, who hate social media, they hate Facebook, they hate Twitter. Oh my God, I gotta post another hashtag thing, I don't even know what that is. While you don't have to love Mark Zuckerberg and Facebook and what he's done, and you don't have to love Twitter, you do have to respect that the way social media works is an incredible free resource that every author can use to promote their book. And while you feel like kind of a heel sometimes and making your friends, tell your friends over and over and over again to buy your book, you got to remind folks sometimes 4, 5, 6, 7 times before they remember to do it. These are for people that want to buy your book. So getting a handle on social media and doing it well, being social, not just being a salesman, buy my thing, buy my thing, buy my thing. You know, it doesn't work with you either. But being social, being involved, so people recognize you not just as that person who wrote that new book, but as, wow, this person knows what they're doing. This person is an authority. And while social media, I know it's, for some people they hate it, some people are, you know, real, oh, this is great, I love this stuff. It's free and it's effective. And I think that's the best part of it all. And a lot of authors are extremely successful using social media to tell them about events that they might be at. Maybe you're writing a cookbook, you can share recipes and information, and talk and communicate with other people who have the same interests, especially in the nonfiction world. You don't want to give that away. Secret number 10, beware of online companies that don't sell books, but do sell to authors. I will, you know, I don't want to go online and start trashing companies, but I will. There's a company called iUniverse, which includes their subsidiaries of Author Solutions, which includes Author House, iUniverse, Trafford Books, Ex Libris, and they have a few other names. Avoid them. Run away. Don't sign with them. There are excellent companies online you can work with. Those are not the ones. And there are a lot of authors out here, you'll see that name on their books, and almost all of them regretted it. These are companies that are essentially sales companies. Their job is to sell you stuff, not sell books to the public. So consider that you're their product, and they want you to buy the next marketing pitch, the next better cover, the next better editing service, the next better bookmark, the next better signage, the next better, you name it. And they never go away, because they're selling you stuff. And wow, you didn't sell that many books, well, you know why? You didn't buy our super special package, which we're going to give you a 25% discount just right now, just for calling. So really, do your homework online and Google these companies before you sign up with them. Tate Publishing, a Christian company, a religious book company. Their CEO and CFO are currently in prison. They're ripping off authors. So no one is safe. Double check, you know, triple check, do your research. Number 11, for the indie author, for the self-published author, this is a marathon, not a sprint. You want your book out there, and even if you're really motivated and you've got a good book and you're doing well with it, it's going to take a while to sink in. I don't know if anyone here is famous. If you are, then you're going to have a better chance than anyone else, because the rest of us now have to go get famous. And that takes time. It takes time for you to build your platform, for people to recognize you when you walk in the door and say, hey, there goes the author. Not, there goes the insurance salesman. There goes the, you know, the guy that works at the barbershop. You want to be recognized as that author. So when your first book comes out, and hopefully you someday have a second, maybe a third, the second, the third, the fourth, the fifth, you start to discover are so much easier to sell and market than the first. Because people now expect you to come out with a new book. I've written 3, I'm late with my 4th, and I get complaints all the time. Where is it? When is it coming? Why is it late? Is it because I'm doing these kind of things? So as you get through it, understand that you're not going to just suddenly publish and be famous and rich and sell books all the time, right out of the box. And then number 12, which kind of ties into the other one I said before, is research. Avoid the rush to publication. A number of the authors we work with, we give them their original proofs. They're so excited to have their book in proof form. When that proof comes in the mail, they turn it around in like an hour. Oh my God, it's beautiful, it's perfect, exactly what I want. Let's print this thing. Oh my God, I can't wait. And that's usually when they discover that one typo, that really dumb mistake. We had one author who switched character names in the middle of a dialogue, so a series of dialogue unintentionally, and then somebody calls you on it in an Amazon review. And if there's a 12.5, it's have a thick skin. Because when you do write and you do put it out there, people are going to read it. People online aren't very nice. Even when you've got a great book, you can go online and look at some of the reviews for the best books ever written. And there's some dope that's gone there, ripping it apart. So take your time. There's no rush. You worked so long and so hard on your manuscript. Don't rush to publication. So I think of all the things that we do when we work with authors, Dawn and I, those would be the top 12 items that I would tell you to focus on the most. So as you go out and you start talking to companies that might help you self-publish, or you start looking into ways to do it yourself, and again, everything in the self-publishing world can be done on your own. The first book I did, my first novel, Confessions of the Meek and the Valiant, which was a South Boston crime thriller, cost me $12.95. And that was only because we bought the font that's on the front cover that we really, really liked. And that was the fee, that was the licensing fee for it. Otherwise, it would have been, using the air quotes, free. So I'll open up the questions. We only have about 5 minutes because I know they're going to announce the raffle prizes, and that's like the most important thing that happens here. So are there any specific questions or any areas you think I didn't cover, or would you like me to cover? Oh yes. Ebooks was a question, if we publish ebooks. Yes, we do. We can convert any manuscript to an ebook. That's another good area to do some research. Don't assume just because you're writing a book, people are going to want it in ebook. Ebooks on romance, mystery, science fiction, the genres do extremely well. Children's books, history books, not so much. It's usually not expensive to convert them. So if you don't do it yourself, and even through Kindle now, KDP, they have some nice tools that'll help you do that if you do it on your own. It's very easy to do, and it's worth it. They also pay 70% royalties when you sell an ebook, so it doesn't take long to make back any investment. It's up to you to hire somebody to do that for you.
How do you overcome discrimination against self-publishing, or prejudice against it? Because there's such a strong push or drive that in order to be recognized, it has to be formally published by a publisher, but then that entails a number of different things. So to overcome this, I guess, negative stereotype and bring it into the mainstream and help people realize that it is a viable way to do something that's very worthwhile and excellent. How do you overcome that?
Overcoming the stereotyping in self-publishing.
Yes.
I can tell you that it's hard, and every self-published author battles that every day. But I can also tell you that over the last 10 years, it's gotten a lot better. 10 years ago, to say you were self-published, people would almost snicker. And now, I think we've proven as a group of self-published authors, and I don't mean just here, but I mean nationwide, that there are a lot of great stories that need to be told. And your book doesn't have to be #1 on the New York Times bestsellers list to be successful. It might be just successful in small areas, small communities, and people appreciate a good story. And honestly, most readers don't care. As long as they've got a good book and a good story, and you like books, and you may not even realize you've probably read some self-published books that were really good that you don't even know you did. Any other questions?
So is it easier to publish your books as an ebook, or is it better to publish it as a physical copy of the book?
The question is, should you do an ebook or a physical copy? It's kind of a personal choice, and you kind of need a longer conversation about that. But if you want to try it as just an ebook and kind of send it out there, there's a lot of neat marketing things you can do. Let's say you did maybe a short story or a novella. You could turn it into an ebook, give it away for free. See what people think of your writing. See how many you can sell. Start building a following. And then when your bigger novel comes out, you can put that out there. Some people will take their novel, especially if they're long or insignificant, and they'll break it into 3 pieces. So they'll give you the first third free, and then the next 2 thirds are $5.99 each. So you know you're never going to know the end of the story, but if you really like that first third, you're going to buy the others. So there's a lot of ways you can play with ebooks and help build your platform. But half the world, paperback books have never gone away. They're still popular. They're still what people like to read. It's tough to give an ebook as a Christmas present. It's more a choice of what you want to do. And also, again, like I mentioned before, what genre you're in. If you're doing kids' books, ebooks don't sell so well. Whereas if you're doing, trashy romance, you're going to sell a bunch. Anything else?
If you have a book that's like a very specific niche, and it might not appeal to a wide audience, but it's a good book, and it's very specific, would you say that that's an advantage or like a disadvantage?
Again,
In the publishing
yeah,
industry?
is it an advantage or a disadvantage if you have such a specific niche?
Say it's a
I would say,
technical book.
I think it's an advantage. I would say it's a big advantage. Because if you can, because of social media, because of the way the internet and Google works, you can, with a little bit of smarts and a little bit of time, target your audience. So if your book is really only meant for, university professors who teach physics, then finding that target audience is doable. And you don't have to waste your marketing time and dollars on events like this. You can focus in on just that group to market and promote your book to. So it can be an advantage. It's just that you're not going to get that wide. And the more specific you can be, I think sometimes the more successful you can be. How are we doing, Paul? Am I on time?
Yep, we're
just about there. So it's like I say every year, we always know the most important part of this expo is the raffle drawings. So I don't want anybody to miss that, because that's coming up at 4:30. So I'm sure they're about ready to get going out there. They're itching for it. So thank you very much. I'll be back at our table here in the middle of the floor for the next hour or so. So feel free to drop by. Be happy to talk to you, or give us a call, or drop in at our bookstore too in Pawtucket. We're always happy to talk about publishing there too. So thank you.